All right, so let's talk about WandaVision because we've got two episodes we can talk about that have happened since like last time that we spoke about it, and both of them had some pretty major stuff happened.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Huge reveals.
yes,
Another spoiler alert on this one. If you haven't watched them, you're gonna get spoiled.
yeah. So and one of them's the one from last week, and the other one's the one from this most recent Friday. So everybody should have already seen Agatha all along. Like if you
I
haven't
hope so.
seen that, like we were all right. Everybody that predicted that, like, she's really Agatha Harkness. Yeah, she was really Agatha Harkness. So
Yeah,
and she got her own theme song, and it was awesome. And it got stuck in my head like a lot.
I think what threw me as far as her being Agatha Harkness was that she doesn't really look like the character in the
No,
show.
she doesn't
Though
at
she
all.
did kind of wear the outfit in the last episode.
And that was nice.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, it's like I don't know what the MCU has against like really 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 old women,
yeah,
because it's like we should cast somebody sexy looking instead. It's like
yeah.
we'll get Marissa Tomei to play Aunt May.
Right.
And then when people complain about it, they're like, hey, she's technically old enough to be Peter Parker's aunt. I'm like, yeah, she's old enough to be Peter Parker's aunt. She's not old enough to be Aunt May.
Yeah, right.
It's like two completely different things. And I guess if you're like somebody who's lived for like hundreds, even thousands of years, like Agatha Harkness was supposed to be in the comics, I guess you don't necessarily have to look like somebody that old. You
Yeah.
could look like somebody like Catherine Hahn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to complain because I like Catherine Hahn. So again,
When
like
the reveal
the
happened, I was down for it.
yeah. So,
I'm not going
but
to complain. Agatha Harkness. I'm not going to complain about Marissa Tomei's Aunt May either.
nope, nope. I'll let it slide. but
She played
but
once.
mhm. But yeah, she got her own theme song, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
And then like the most recent episode, which was called Previously On,
Mm-hmm.
was kind of the recap episode where it's like getting everybody up to speed and making sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
And my one complaint about that is we didn't see like a lot of most of the characters that we've come to love on this show. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously we had Wanda. We love Wanda. Obviously we had Agatha, and we love Agatha. And the Vision is still on there. We love the Vision. But we didn't get any of Monica Rambeau, really.
Yeah.
We didn't
Right.
really get any of Darcy or Jimmy Woo. And
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, even if they took the episode off, we'll get to see a lot more of them in the next episode, which will be the last, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. About that. Like it kind of seems like we're running down to the wire here. It's going to be the last episode. I'm wondering if we're going to have a whole lot of room for that.
Yeah.
I'm worried
So,
because I want more Monica Rambeau, and I want more Jimmy Woo, and I don't know if they're gonna have time for it.
yeah, I know we're definitely going to see more of those characters, like just in general.
Yeah.
Like we'll see them elsewhere in the MCU,
Mm-hmm.
but like I want to kind of see like kind of a wrap up of their story arc for the series,
Yeah.
and a hint of where they're going to go is what I would
Right.
like to see. So, you know, uh, they still haven't shown the big mystery character, the Luke Skywalker level character that they keep talking about.
Right.
So I'm wondering who that's going to be. I'm kind of hoping it's Magneto.
Fingers crossed. I'm still hoping for Magneto.
I would really like to see Magneto anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Have they ever restored that in the comics? That continuity?
I don't think they have yet, but
Yeah.
I would imagine if they did in the MCU, they would do it in the comic books also. They never should have undone it in the comic books anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
In case anybody ends up watching this super geeky video and is unfamiliar, maybe we should recap some of that. Because so
okay.
Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, they first appeared. They were not the children of Magneto. I think they were the kids of the Wizard, right? The Golden Age.
I think
kind
at some point that was going to be the
yeah.
thing. At some point in the comic, I think they did believe that they were the children of the Wizard.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the original intent.
Right.
Because I don't think Stan Lee would have done that. It doesn't seem to be like the sort of thing like Stan didn't really care that much about revisiting the Golden Age stuff.
Yeah. So whoever their parents were wasn't a big feature of the characters when they first appeared. Yeah. But at some point,
that seems like a Roy Thomas thing.
Yeah.
Roy Thomas would have been the guy who would have decided the Wizard.
They decided that Vision and Scarlet Witch, or not Vision, Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch were the children of Magneto. So they tied them into, and that's stuck for a really long time until Disney couldn't get the film rights to the X-Men characters and Magneto, and they were using Vision and Scarlet Witch in the Avengers movies, Vision and Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch in the Avengers movies, and they had to remove that aspect of their characters, so they were no longer the kids of Magneto, and they removed that from comic continuity also.
Yeah.
So that's where we are now. Yeah. But most people who are familiar with the characters, most comic fans who grew up with them, most people who are our age or even a little younger know Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch as Magneto's kids, and I'm hoping that gets restored.
And they were Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch supposed to be mutants from the beginning, because they first appear in X-Men as members of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Yeah.
But they weren't Magneto's kids at that point.
Right.
So and
when we first see them in the MCU, when they first get introduced in Age of Ultron, they were also not necessarily mutants. They didn't really get into it, but it was Hydra that gave them their powers. And then in this latest episode, previously on, we learned that there was something about Wanda before she was exposed to the Mind Stone, Loki's staff, that may have given her powers. So we're getting to the point now where
she might, in fact, be a mutant.
There we go. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
It might also be just that she has like an innate.
She has some kind of latent abilities.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah,
but it could be she's a mutant. I guess we'll just have to see. But there's been a lot of speculation that WandaVision might be their way of among other things, trying to segue into mutants being a part of the MCU.
Right.
So, and I was kind of wondering if that might be partially, another aspect of Monica Rambeau having her DNA kind of shuffled around by that thing. Is that like maybe that's what causes mutants? Like,
awesome.
Yeah, like maybe that's something that triggers people's latent mutancy. Like if it's a gene that's somehow buried within them, and then just like Wanda's hex magic is the thing that causes it to go haywire, like a reverse House of M kind of thing.
Somebody had asked online about what the deal was with Wanda seemingly having some kind of abilities before Hydra, did their thing to her, and it made me think a little bit. There was that scene where she's flashing back to different points in her life. And they show her when she gets exposed. Hydra's running their experiments that give her powers, and she sees a vision of
not the vision, just a vision,
not the vision, a vision of a character flying towards her in silhouette that was wearing a costume very similar to the comic book costume for the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah,
it occurred to me that obviously they're doing a lot of stuff with alternate universes upcoming in the MCU. And it occurred to me that it's possible she may have come in contact with another version of herself from another universe that is a mutant and had these powers, and that's what triggered her to gain these abilities.
Yeah, it could be something like that very easily.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like I wasn't sure if that was just supposed to be like a vision of like the future, or if it was like an alternate version of her. Or maybe like, a past incarnation of the Scarlet Witch
Yeah, yeah.
Since
There
that's
was that.
apparently a concept that Agatha was very familiar with.
Yeah. So you're the Scarlet Witch. That's what she says. Like she knew who the Scarlet Witch was. She knew the Scarlet Witch was a thing, and now she's figured out that Wanda is that thing. So.
Yeah. Which I thought was a nice thing to do, since, like, you know, we discussed before, she hasn't technically been called the Scarlet Witch in the MCU yet.
Yeah.
So
and here's another thing, another thought that just occurred to me. So the earlier phases of the Marvel Universe dealt a lot with the Infinity Gems, or the Infinity Stones, they call them in the movie. So you know that aspect is gone. In Endgame, they got rid of the Infinity Stones, but they could bring up, another concept similar to that. If the Scarlet Witch is kind of a legacy, is a mantle that you take on. There's another concept kind of like that in the Marvel Universe in the comics already, which is the Phoenix Force, which again is another tie back to the X-Men. So there could be, they could introduce these other, kind of fundamental universal forces in lieu of the Infinity Stones, where, this is the new thing. There's the Scarlet Witch, there's a Phoenix Force, there's, I don't know what else, but there's a lot of stuff like that around the Marvel Universe that they could get into. It's possible it ties into the Celestials. Maybe these are, some kind of aspect of their abilities.
Especially with the Eternals being one of the next movies to come out.
Yeah, so. I'm suspecting the Celestials, we'll see a lot more of them in the MCU, especially in Eternals. But, this could be another thing that ties into that.
I didn't really get a look at it, but I heard something about how, like, the Lego sets had already leaked, like, images of those. Right, I hadn't actually seen them except for, like, a little bit. Yeah. And it looked like there was a Sentinel, like a Celestial that you could build yourself. And I'm guessing it would be nowhere near as big as they actually are in the movies, but it's a Lego set. What are you going to do? Like, you can't build one that's like actually the size of a full-grown adult male, which is what it would have to be like to be next to those Lego minifigures. But I'm kind of hoping those Lego sets will have a little more of that Kirby craziness that I kind of feel like the costume designs don't quite have. For Eternals. So, but I guess we'll see.
Are we excited for Eternals?
I'm moderately excited. Like, I'm not like woo Eternals, but it's like the sort of thing where it's like, well, it's an MCU movie, and I've liked most of them so far, so I'm certainly willing to give it a chance. But honestly, like of all the concepts that they've got upcoming that are things that haven't really been made into movies, like Shang-Chi and things like that, the Eternals is probably the one that I've had the least experience in terms of reading the comic books. So it's probably the one that I have like the least bit of attachment to. Like I've read enough Master of Kung Fu that I'm excited about Shang-Chi. Like that's something where I'm like, hell yeah, bring that on. Right. And hearing that the Mandarin's going to be involved in that, just icing on the cake. I'm excited about that one. And other characters that are coming like in various shows and movies and things like Moon Knight. I'd be psyched about Moon Knight, but the Eternals is just not something that I've got that much of a connection with. So I'm kind of like,
I'm a huge fan of Jack Kirby. You know that about me. Love Jack Kirby. The Eternals is very Kirby-ish. I wouldn't call it his best work. Again, I haven't. Most of my exposure to those characters has come, from when they appeared in other people's books. Yeah. Specifically, the Avengers. There were a couple that were members of the Avengers at one point. Cersei.
That's why Cersei is like really the only one I have kind of any attachment to, because I remember reading her in the Avengers at least.
So my biggest hope with an Eternals movie was that it would be, finally that essence of Kirby that we've never really got.
When they first announced it, I felt that way.
Yeah. Like that was the hope. That was my biggest hope for an Eternals movie, is that it's going to look like Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby's creations come to life. Yeah. And so I see the character designs. they released some artwork of the characters in costumes, and they're just not Kirby-ish at all. I mean, they look like slightly more colorful versions of the old Fox X-Men costumes, where it's basically it's leather from the neck down, and just a little bit of color to give you an indication that there's different characters, but just so unoriginal and unimaginative and unimpressive.
And honestly, like even if we put aside like whether or not they were like Jack Kirby's artwork, they just weren't interesting like in their like on their own merits.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything that really like really that's what you're doing with that.
I've been kind of following along with the casting, and that's a whole other issue. I really don't have a problem with them. Some of the characters are race swapped. I don't have a problem with any of that.
Yeah.
I have a bit more of a problem with the fact that here's my problem with it's Makari, the speedster. My problem with that one is twofold. One, they changed him into a woman, and two, that woman is Salma Hayek, whom I love, but I think she would be a perfect Cersei. If you cast Salma Hayek in an Eternals movie, why is she not playing Cersei?
Yeah,
my bigger problem with that. Not that they turned him into a woman, but that that woman should be playing somebody else in this movie.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like what I said about Marlon Wayans playing Ripcord in G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra, where it's like
why is he not Stalker?
There's got to be like 20 black characters that already exist in G.I. Joe.
Right.
You don't really need
That's more important to the lore than Ripcord.
Yeah. Even that. But it's like you don't have to take a white character and turn him into a black character if you've already got like plenty of black characters you could have in here that are popular characters that people would be
more popular than Ripcord.
Yeah.
More popular than Ripcord and more interesting. So
it's like you know what I liked about Ripcord in the comic book was the storyline with Bongo the Balloon Bear and how he fell in love with this girl and it ends tragically. And like they didn't do that in the movie, so to me, like, what's the point of having him be Ripcord at all? Like
they just randomly grabbed a name from G.I. Joe. We're like, Marlon is Ripcord. Like there's nothing. No offense to anybody who liked those movies, but there was no point to having him be Ripcord at all. So I don't know. But anyway, getting back to the Eternals, I look. Costumes, and there's nothing about those designs that gives you any indication of what those characters are, what they're about, and what they do. I've been following the casting, so at some point I had heard, which character each of these actors are playing, but I can't remember. And looking at them, I get no indication.
Yeah.
So,
like I think Rob Stark is playing Icarus.
Yeah,
I think, but. Like, I don't think that because I saw him in the costume and said, oh, well, he's playing Icarus. I think that because he's, like, probably playing the main character in that movie, and the main character of the Eternals is Icarus.
Icarus, yeah.
I'm guessing.
I saw a group shot the other day.
His costume was blue.
Yeah.
It was blue.
Well, they're missing the red, too. He should be blue and red. But, he's front and center, so he's got to be playing Icarus. But there's nothing about him that looks like the character at all. Not even just setting aside his hair color, which is wrong. But, we'll get it some other time.
I'm thinking it's a sort of thing, kind of like what they had with Guardians of the Galaxy, where they're kind of like, nobody's really heard of any of these characters, so we can pretty much do whatever we want to with them.
Yeah.
And I think that worked for Guardians of the Galaxy, and maybe it'll work for this too.
Hopefully it turns out as well.
But I don't know. I do think that they probably should have put a little more of the Kirby influence into it, and that would have worked a lot better.
The hope is that when this movie finally comes out, what we'll get is new versions of the characters that are as interesting as the new versions of the characters were in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So
at the end of the day, I think what's most important is that it turns out to be a good movie.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it would have been a much more important and better movie, I think, better property, I think, to take the place of the Eternals would have been the Inhumans, which they kind of you know, wasted on that crappy series.
Yeah. So, but you know,
the Inhumans are much more important to the Marvel universe than the Eternals.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like part of the reason that the Inhumans wound up getting screwed up though is because like they were going to try to push them as like being their equivalent of the X-Men. And
yeah,
you know, they should have just had them be just let them be the Inhumans.
Mm-hmm.
Try to force them into a box of trying to be something. You know what else irritates me about like the Inhumans is that was the thing they put. God, I forget the actor's name, but Ramsay Snow.
Yeah,
they put him in there, and they cast him as the villain in that. And that was a perfect character for him to play. Maximus, was that his name? Yeah. That would have been a perfect character for him to play, but he's perfectly cast as this character in this lousy adaptation.
Yeah,
to me that's really sad.
So Captain Pike played Black Bolt would have been perfect.
Yeah,
but they stripped that property of everything that would have made it interesting at all, and threw it on TV, and nobody was interested. So you know, they kind of wasted it. If you're gonna hinge the, I don't know if it's still the plan, but at one point, you know, the idea was that the Eternals were going to be kind of the vanguard of the next phase of the Marvel universe. They're going to be the next big thing. The Inhumans should have been that, and they would have been much more interesting, and they're much more important to the Marvel universe. But they wasted it. They just threw it away. So
absolutely.
You know, at one point they had planned to make that a movie. And they decided, no, you know what? Let's just make a crappy TV show instead.
Because I remember they were talking about for the movie, they were talking about having Vin Diesel play Black Bolt.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was kind of the loophole that they had was because you know they said they didn't want to have the same actor play multiple characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but they were like, hey, he only did the voice of Groot.
Exactly. The thing that would have been
he's gonna play Black Bolt. But you won't hear his voice.
Won't hear his voice. There you go. So his voice will be one character, and his face will be another character. And it would have been pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, oh well. So, anything else to say about WandaVision?
It's really good. I'm enjoying it, and I think they need more than one more episode. You know what? I suspect we're gonna get a Scarlet Witch movie. I suspect that. Much like this Luke Skywalker announcement that they keep saying that this, you know, this Luke Skywalker moment that they keep saying is coming, we're going to get that. And then we're going to get the Boba Fett moment in the end credits where they're like, hey, coming, you know, this year, it's going to be the Vision and the Scarlet Witch movie.
And we know that she's going to be in Multiverse of Madness. One thing we didn't discuss that I think we should touch on real quick before we wrap this up is when we saw the Vision at the end of the episode.
Right.
And it was the all white version of the Vision from West Coast Avengers.
Ghost Vision.
When John Byrne had the character rebooted. Yeah. Like literally rebooted. And in that one, like once that happened, like he didn't really have any of like his emotions or anything like that. And he didn't really have any memories of the past. And
some of my family friends asked me about him.
Yeah.
You know, what's the distinction, you know, about the White Vision? And a lot of them don't realize, like some of them were asking, well, you know, is he real? Did he come back now? Is the version that's in Wanda's Hex, is he the real Vision, or is the version that was rebuilt by Sword, is he the real Vision? And the thing is that a lot of people don't know, if you haven't read the comics, is that when the Vision came back in the all white form, he was the Vision in name, but all of his personality, his emotions, I don't remember if his memories were part of the deal, if he had lost his memories or what, but he was more robotic, and he was not the traditional Vision that we had come to know. Yeah. And I'm suspecting that that's what's going to happen in this show also. Yeah.
So I kind of had this thought that this was kind of at least what I hoped, is that when Wanda recreated the Vision and she made his body out of her illusion powers, that somehow maybe she did really bring back his soul, his spirit.
Right. Yeah.
If an android can even be said to have a soul, but I believe the Vision could because of the affinity.
Right. Yeah. I've talked about this online too, and this is something that I think is the case also.
Mm-hmm. And if she did, maybe the soul could be put back into the physical body in some way.
The rebuilt body. That's what I'm expecting.
Truly,
that's my prediction.
Resurrected.
That's my prediction for the end of episode 9. Is that's what's going to happen? Is that his soul from Wanda's hex and the body from Sword are going to be merged back together, and the Vision will be alive again.
Mm-hmm. Especially with like how they've done like a really good job of establishing the relationship between those characters. Because I never felt like we got enough of that in the movies, but the series I think has really done a really good job with it, especially in this most recent episode.
Mm-hmm.
What is grief if not love persevering?
Yeah, there you go.
God, I love that line. But but yeah, like if I definitely want to see more of them together.
Yeah.
I definitely want to see like a happy resolution to this, that we could see the Vision and the Scarlet Witch truly reunited.
Yeah, if there's one big thing that I feel that we were missing from the MCU, it's those character relationships getting built, because there wasn't a lot of room for that kind of thing in the movies, and I really hope we get if anything, the Marvel shows on Disney Plus are a good opportunity to get more of that in.
Mm-hmm. And again, like I said many times, like I'm really psyched for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm a huge Captain America fan, so like even without Steve himself being around, like there's enough of the Captain America mythology involved in that show that I'm really psyched for it. So, but I guess that's pretty much it then. We'll go ahead and wrap this up. I know you got donuts to eat.
I got donuts to eat.
So
looks like a Wendy's too. So.
I don't like to stand between a man and his donuts. So, all right. Well, you have a good night. We'll talk to you next time.
Yep.
All right. Bye.